Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you all here again in this amazing place. I would like to welcome you on the semi-annual results, especially those who are watching us online. Today's presentation will be led by our CEO, Niklas Nilberg, and our CFO, Maciej Drozd. I just want to give you one tip for those who are watching us, that if you would like to ask the question, please click chat. It's in the right corner, and then you can start posting the questions that will be asked after the presentation. So I would like to welcome on stage Maciej Drozd, that will start the presentation.
Good morning, everybody. It's my pleasure to start this presentation on our half-year results. Let's start from reminding you on, few basic facts about Echo. We completed 161 projects, but we have 86 projects ongoing with a total area of around 1.3 million square meters and total development value upon completion of nearly 3 billion euros. We are active in the largest cities in Poland, in 7 largest cities, and this is one of the pillars of our strategy. The second is maintaining and developing our leadership position in each of the segments, and I think it will be visible throughout the presentation how we do that and how we continue to improve. And also you will see during the presentation how we implement remaining pillars of our strategy, which is finding the right balance of risk and return, working through partnerships, especially on exits, but also on development, through JVs. And in particular, we would like to focus on destination projects, which are really the unique part of our strategy, as we are the only company in Poland who is able to implement that type of strategy, especially in the size we are doing that. So as I said, we are active in 4 segments. Office segment continues to be, the largest, but Resi for Rent and Resi for Sale are catching up. And we also talk about retail segment, where we had a number of achievements in the quarter we are going to talk about. Let's look at the financial data for the quarter and for first half of the year. So our net profit exceeded 36 million PLN, so it was higher than in Q1, and it is higher than the recent consensus, slightly higher, it's around 7 million. So we are performing better than expected. If you compare to what happened a year ago, there are 2 important differences that explain why our first 2 quarters this year were not as high as last year. And of course, what is really important for us is the annual result. So what happened in the first 2 quarters this year, we had not many handovers. And if you look at the total number of handovers planned for this year, it is much higher than a year ago, which means that in Q3 and Q4, we are doing a lot of work to show margin on residential projects. But we'll talk about this a little bit more later. The second factor is also that the revaluation was lower in Q2 this year than a year ago. And there is really one thing, or one reason for that, which is Libero. So last year, we were on the final stages of developing Libero, which is a very big asset. So obviously the revaluation that we recognized last year for that particular reason was high in that quarter. And generally, Libero was the driver of 2018 results. But in 2019, we also have a great news. So we have another asset which is performing very well and definitely will continue to show very good results and high revaluation of this asset, which is the office part of Brewery. So we'll talk about that later. You will see how well this project is developing. But if you compare the size in total, it is not dissimilar to Libero. And I can tell you with the current office yields in Warsaw, the profit that we will be able to show, finally upon completion on these assets will be extremely satisfactory to us. Here, you can see the drivers. I already mentioned that, that we didn't have a lot of handovers in Q1, Q2 because we didn't complete many projects in these quarters. But we are going to complete, in fact, we are completing many projects in Q3 and Q4, and this will drive the margin a lot. And again, if you look at the properties that were revalued and will be revalued, you see that still we are going to have a lot of first revaluations for many office projects, which is important. So they were not revalued until end of Q2, but we expect them to be revalued in Q3, Q4. And in particular, brewery asset, we expect here really very good performance in terms of profitability and final pricing. The highlights, the most important events in each of the segments. In residential, we sold in Q2 almost 300 apartments. So the total for the first half of the year is over 640. Actually, it's a very big growth compared to last year, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. In the commercial segment, we started construction of React, which is a new office building in Łódź, and we completed first phase of Moje Miejsce project, which is a very, very, very nice, very beautiful project in Warsaw, part of bigger development. You can call it like a small destination project because it has both office and residential component, which is a unique feature of developments that we are doing. Landbank, we again bought very nice plots. We'll talk about this in more detail later. And we secured financings for our office projects. Actually, after the completion, after the end of Q2, the good news flow is continuing. And if you look at the number of apartments sold, number of projects in residential that we are starting, and the fact that we actually opened, we completed our first Resi for Rent project in Wroclaw, and it will, the leasing process started just recently with very good results. I think this shows the residential segment is something which is our very high priority, and actually it's not only, our focus, but we are delivering, by increasing sales and by starting really this new line of new segment, which is residential for rent. We finally sold O3, which is the third building of this complex. First two buildings were sold to EPP in previous years. We closed the sale recently of the third building. In Landbank, I think this is really a very impressive number. We secured over 190,000 square meters of buildable area after the end of the quarter in a very, very high profile projects. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And last but not least, we have declared interim dividend. And I think if you follow the news this morning, we announced that actually all the conditions for this dividend to be paid are fulfilled by just finalizing the audit of interim balance sheet. So now we can say that we are going to pay 50 groszy per share on October 21st with dividend record date October 14. And again, a little bit more on that later. I already mentioned, this highlight of opening of Moje Miejsce, very nice project, already very with a very high lease level and part of bigger development. The land bank, just sums up all the previously mentioned numbers, what we bought in Q2, what we have secured, until now. So actually, in total, we exceeded 300,000 square meters of buildable area acquired or secured this year, which is really high number, And I think it shows that we really focus on the future. Right? I mean, because this is, of course, what will drive our profitability in the next few years. We started 4 new projects in Poznań, Wrocław, Tri-City, and Łódź. And these are residential projects, but also 1 office project. And now, Niklas will talk about destinations.
Thank you, Maciej. When we talk about the destinations, and like we discussed before, this is unique about Echo. And this is the part of our business that we are continue growing. We are now up to 42% of our business being related to destination project. And both me and the company see that part of our business continue growing. It's extremely successful from a profit point of view, from a tenant point of view, but also from the city's point of view, where we take deserted areas and turn them back to the future glory. And also in some parts, we are moving city centers in many parts of these cities, which is a really, really interesting way of doing it. To do this, we need to have this experience that we have in-house, but we can do all these functions within one company. And I think it's important to, when you look at retail, the retail part of this project is extremely crucial. So that's why we're looking a lot at the retail. And the retail here, we mean food and beverage retail, the entertainment retail. That kind of retail that you really see now growing in all the different parts of the business that we see ahead of us. And in these areas here, if it's brewery or it's Fusha and Łódź or other projects going forward, what we put in the ground floor of these areas is extremely crucial to continue making it a successful project. The project you see here behind our backs that we now continue progressing with is the Warsaw Brewery. It's a fantastic project. We have been able to sell all the first 3 phases of our residential. We have the 4th and the last phase left, where we have sold half of this area, of this more exclusive area of this building. And many of you would ask why we have not sold more. And that is on purpose. This project will be ready on October, November next year. When you will come in and touch and feel and see what kind of great building this is, we will be so sure that we will get even more paid for those apartments. We also managed to get financing for the buildings, and also what Maciej talked about before, and I will come back to it later on as well, it's about the office part, where we are now fully leased on Building K. We have signed few leases on the last G&H, and we are in advanced negotiation on the remaining space of the office buildings. A lot of you have also seen about Fusha and Łódź. This is a fantastic project. We are taking a 7.7 hectares of an old textile factory and then turning that into a new project. We have just released the first residential buildings where we see a huge demand from inhabitants who want to buy into this project. What you will see at the end of this year, or maybe early next year, that we will start off the office part of this building as well, where we already today are also in advanced negotiations with tenants. What we see here, tenants prefer these kind of locations, with the historical part, with the bricks buildings. This is really what both the inhabitant of Łódź and the tenants that the driving companies there really want to have. So this is what we see really going forward. This is much more what we're trying to do. And we have a very good dialogue with the cities here, how we can transform these areas and really doing it in a way that is taking care of both the inhabitants of that city. What you see here is our flagship project, the Towarowa 22. This is a unique project. This will not only be unique for Poland, this will be unique for Europe. I don't think anybody has seen anything like this before. This Friday, the founder of BIG is coming to Warsaw to meet up with the city authorities, to lectures, showing really what a vision he's trying to implement, how he's trying to enforce the experience he got from doing projects all over the world and how we implement that into Warsaw. So this is not only a project, this is so much more than a project. And also what you will see here, we are moving forward with the master plan. We're doing a project that everybody thought would be a retail project. This is truly the mother of all destination projects. This is something that I have never seen, And we have also are so excited to work together with the city and the inhabitants of Warsaw are really turning this into a new meeting point. I think when we are ready with Towarowa 22, this will be the new city center. And this is a place where people will come from outside of Poland to look at. Resi for sale. You've seen back in the last quarters, me and Masha has talked a lot that we have seen construction prices increasing quicker than sales prices. And that's why we slow down and we implemented that, saying that at the end of the project, we're going to sold 80% of the stock, the project in that area, and we're going to sell the remaining 20% within 6 months after completion. What we have seen now, which you see in this slide here as well, between the quarters now, prices has increased by 2%. We see construction prices flatten out or slightly going down. And that's also what you see now. We are slowly now increasing the sales pace. So we are moving forward with selling more, we're putting more apartments on the stock, and we're selling quicker than we've done historically. And also what you will see here now, we are still defending the margins that we have in any projects. And what you see here now is that we are now up to being the 8th largest developer. We are still targeting to be number 1 to number 3. We are still having the same target by 2020. We will have 2,000 apartments sold that year, which is really the target that we are continuing driving against, and we are positive that we will reach there. Also, what you see now, quarter by quarter, we are keeping a stable sales pace in all the different projects. And I think at the end of August, we were slightly above 800 apartments sold. We're selling a little bit more than 100 apartments per month, and that is also including the slightly weaker summer months. And then you should also remember that the last quarter of the year is extremely strong quarters in residential sale. So we are very positive that we will hit the communicated target around 1,300 apartments sold by year end. Here you also see how we are growing it. This is a table done, how was the quarter by quarter growth between the different developers. And here you see also how we have grown from Q2 2018 to Q2 2019, where we grow with close to 40%. And what I think is interesting to see here, that we did this growth, but still keeping our margins on the project. And we see going forward, and we are also very positive about Q3 and Q4, where we will continue seeing a continuous growth of both sales and handovers in the project. We launched 446 apartments. And what you will see now going forward, we're getting building permits on quite a few of our projects now. So you will see a strong launch of new projects in residential, both in Q3 and Q4. And that is happening now in the coming months. You will see already now that there's quite a few projects that are coming up for sale, both in Warsaw, in Poznan, and in other markets around. So we are very positive on this part of the business, that we have communicated clearly that this is a priority for Echo to continue growing in the resi part of our business. Here you see how we are launching our projects. And here you'll see in Q3 that we will launch Stasia Wola and also in Poznan, the 2 projects of close to 555 apartments. This is extremely important for us to continue growing quarter by quarter. And you will see also every quarter we start roughly the same amount of apartments. So it's between 450 to 650 apartments per quarter. So we have a stable start of new projects, and this is all in line with hitting our targets of by next year selling 2,000 apartments. So you will see here we will start up 2,200 apartments here. And here we're also very clear where we will start up the apartments and in which quarter you will start the apartments. For you who has an extremely good memory, you will remember that last quarter we presented the apartment we're going to start in Q2, we said was exactly 446, which was a good guess a quarter ago. What we also are showing here now, which I think is a very important slide to have, and which we have not shown you before, this is the pipeline that we're having ahead of us. And I think that's important for you as well to see why we're talking so much about 2,000 apartments sold by next year. We're having 9,800 apartments secured in the pipeline. And what you see also now is that we continue growing that in the quarters going forward. And you will see here a lot of this has been acquired in the latest quarter, where you will see that a lot of them are related to what we are doing with the project in Warsaw, where we are transforming new parts of that areas to residential areas. And all of these projects here are in excellent locations. So we are extremely bullish of this part of the market. We think there's a huge potential, and we want to continue growing. And here you also have divided them in the offer, permitting, concept stage, and the ones we have acquired recently. Resi for Rent, our newest business. We have just now opened up our first building in Wroclaw. It opened up a couple of weeks ago. Here you see on the slide all the projects we have ongoing. We're going to walk you through this business and also explain how we're getting to the 7,500 apartments in operation by 2023. And this is one of the businesses where we have not started to reevaluate the projects yet, because they are still under construction. But this will be a big part of our business going forward. And we also see a lot of opportunities here in the sharing economy, where this will be a big, big part of our business and also going forward what we are contributing here to in the Polish business. We already see this is an extremely big part of the business, both in Germany, in Sweden, and many other mature markets where the Resi for Rent is a strong part of the Resi part. What you see here is a picture of an apartment that we are now handing over in Wroclaw. And here we are, how we're going to hand them over by month by month. And then we also open up now in October our apartment in Łódź. What you see here that is unique and what we've done here is that you can choose if you want to have your apartment rented empty or you want to rent it with furniture. What we've seen is there's a huge interest from the people to rent with furniture. And to satisfy that need, we have started a cooperation with IKEA. So you can get your apartment furnished with IKEA furniture, and you can choose what you want to put in there, and just to make it a little bit more nicer and adapted to your needs. We have seen also now, by handing over the first apartment, almost 100% are choosing them furnished, which was not what we expected. We expected it to be more 50-50, but we see there's a big interest of getting your apartment furnished and pay it over the rent over the period you're staying there. We have seen a big interest for those apartments, and you will see now going forward when we are updating our homepage, we're going to launch the apartments that are month by month, because also what we've seen is when you're deciding for apartment, you do it within the coming month before you need your apartment. So we are now continuously updating our homepage with more and more apartments month by month. Here you see what the amount of apartments we have under construction, how many we are planning to start up, and also you will see that there's a lot of apartments being handed over now when we go forward 20, 21, 22, 23. And this is something that we are now also starting a lot of new investments in. And here you see the pipeline we're having. Here you see where we are planning the 7,500 apartments. And this is by 2024 here. Here you see also that we are remaining 2,400 apartments to be secured. We're going to start up between 1,500 to 2,000 apartments annually. And this is totally in line with our strategy. It takes us, same as in Resi for Rent, it takes us, Resi for Sale, it takes around 3 years from we are buying the plot until we can get it fully operational. So here we are fully in line with our strategy. We have around 5,000 apartments secured. We have another 2,400 apartments to be secured. And here you see how we are dividing it between the different cities. And we are focusing a lot here on the big cities where we see a big interest from tenants to rent. We also are seeing a lot of interest for slightly smaller apartments in those areas. So we're constantly adopting what we are building to the needs and also to the learnings we see from the latest project we handed over. Offices. We are in an extremely strong office market at the moment. Both here in Warsaw, where you see a lot of buildings being completed. You see record yields, but you also see a huge demand for taking space. And we also see the same trends in the regional cities, where we're starting up a lot of new projects. But we see a lot of demand from big occupiers that are now consolidating and taking space in our different projects. We have seen pretty early on this Warsaw Brewery project that we have been leased early in all the phases. And we also see going forward that we have a huge demand for the coming phases of this project. You also see here in Warsaw, we now see yields way below 5%, which we have not anticipated before. In this low yield environment, I think there is tendencies that those yields can continue going further down. Also, when you go out in the regional cities, you see yields below 6%. And they are pretty substantially below 6%, the same as the yields in Warsaw are substantially below 5%. So this is a really interesting market, and that's why we are having a lot of projects being launched, but also we are planning to launch a lot of new projects going forward. We opened up My Place 1. We started My Place 2. We disposed Cracow of our Polska 3, which was the last of the ROFO projects with EPP, which we have had a lot of great cooperation in the last times, and now we are pushing it forward with new projects, but not in the setup of ROFO. And what you will see in Cracow is that we have 2 great plots there. And during next year, we're going to start up 2 fantastic projects there in really, really good locations. You see React 1, which is launched, of 15,000 square meters. You will see late this year or maybe early next year that we start up a Fusha in which as well. Here you see My Place 1. It's already today 65% leased. And I think when we're going to closer to year end, we will be somewhere around 90% leased in that building. And this is a beautiful location. And also what we see now, when you see yields in Wola going down with 4%, you see also a lot of investors are starting looking for alternative returns. And this is a fantastic project to be getting that kind of returns, still being in Warsaw, but not being exactly in the city center. So we already now see big interest for projects like this. My Place 2, we started in April. We are already now having interest for tenants for more than 60% of that project. So you really see now that this is great because we both see tenants moving from Mokotów up here, but you also see company consolidating from the city center moving to this area. And when there will be a tram built between Wilanów and this will be an excellent location going forward. Warsaw Brewery, you see, if you look outside this project and you walk by here every week, you will see the completion that we're doing here week by week. I think we see almost every week one of the buildings has increased by 1 floor, which I think personally is fantastic. And we will see here at the end of next year when we have completed all the phases, we have handed over all the common areas, and this will be, for the Christmas next year, this will be the place where everybody will hang out and really show the Christmas spirit of a project of this size of close to 110,000 square meters, where we really are transforming a big part of Wola. What has happened since last quarter, we signed a lease with Accenture for all the remaining spaces of Building K. We signed a lease with Civec for floors of the building, and Allen & Overy also for floors of the building J and H. And we are now also in advanced negotiation for 1 tenant for the remaining space of building J and H. And the retail and the historical sellers are we now leasing up. Here is the important thing for us to make sure that there is a mix of different tenants in those areas. So when you will come here, you will see a diversity of different shops, restaurants, and functions that you have not seen in any other place. This will not be the traditional retail that you've seen in places before. This will be a lot of local brands, a lot of new restaurants that is not existing before, that will really create this attraction point to the Warsaw Brewery. We're coming back to Opolska, which was a great event. This was important for us to dispose the last phase of the ROFOs. We closed that part of the company transformation, and now we can focus going forward. This was also important for us because it injected a lot of cash into the company that was crucial to facilitate the future growth of our business. Because as you've seen, we have invested quite a few in land and quite a few in the fuel of the future growth of Echo. We have React, and here you have React 1, you have React 2, and you have React 3. So in total, we're going to do more than 50,000 square meters in this project here, and that's going to be done by phase. So it's really an interesting area where we see a lot of demand from tenants to consolidate in areas like this. Wroclaw, this is the Westlink Westgate project, where we have previously sold both buildings to Globalworth, and that's where Nokia is having their headquarters for the two first buildings. What we see now going forward, we have another 4 buildings here. We're going to create a new destination project here. There's going to be a lot of greeneries, there's going to be a lot of facility, there's going to be sports, there's going to be all these areas within this project. So this is an early sketch, but this is really where we are transforming a business campus. So this will be for the IT and tech companies that are having their back office in Wroclaw, really to show them that they can get a unique location where they're going to have a place both to integrate, but also all the green areas around. So here is what we're transforming and taking the destination feeling, but only doing offices, but also creating all these greeneries and all these areas around where people can meet and integrate on the squares. This is a very early sketch of this project, and we're going to continue updating you in the coming quarters how it will look like and how it will evolve, and we are very positive about this project. Here's another project in the city center of Wroclaw, Midpoint 71. We are now, in the coming months, starting up the project, and this is in the heart of Wroclaw. And it's going to be more than 30,000 square meters, and this is 37,000 square meters, and you're going to see that's going to be dominant, and it's going to be a lower part of the building. This is also in the biggest street there, and also in the crossing. So this one we see already now, before we started building, a lot of interest from tenants. So Wroclaw is one of our really focus areas where we've been successful historically, and we think we're going to continue being successful in the office part of our business. Katowice. This building here is roughly 40% of what's ongoing in Katowice today. That can be seen as a scary figure. But we are now completing the first building at year end, and we're completing the second building in November next year. And we are 93% leased on those buildings. And that is more than 1 year prior to completion. And what you will see here, and what you see on this slide, is the basketball field, the entertainment areas, the areas where people can meet, hang out, doing different things. That is what that said, many of the tenants said, this is the building we want to be in. And this is big corporates where they have asked their tenants, where do you want to be? Where do you employees want to be, and where do you want to be in this area of Katowice? And that's why they have chosen this location, combined with the great quality that we can deliver, and the closeness to the city center. So this is also showing that there's a huge potential here. And if you look at the leases we have signed, in an average we are above 7 years, which is not so common in the regional cities of Warsaw, of Poland, and especially not in Katowice. So here you see the pipeline we're having going forward. We have started My Place 2. We're going to start in Gdansk, next to the shipyard. We're going to start Midpoint 71. And we're also going to start another project of the Fusha either this year or early next year. So we are very positive about this. And also we see an interest from tenants in all these locations. So it's really showing that we have sold off a lot of our office pipeline. Now it's the right time to continue starting up new projects. Here you see the GLA to be delivered and also the buildings and where they're being located. And you see here the clear focus we're having on being spread in all the 7 different cities. And what you see here as well is what we said. We're roughly going to lease around 100,000 square meters annually, which amounts up to roughly 15,000 square meters per city. So it's really that we have diversified. We have a very interesting office pipeline going forward, and we have diversified our risk across the different cities. and we are not depending on one tenant as a sectors, but we see really that we're growing in both in Warsaw and in the regional cities. Retail. Retail is an interesting market. It is transforming as we sit here. And this is really something that's going to continue transforming. And for the one of you who has not visited Galeria Mokotów yet, you should really take the opportunity. It's a fantastic project. And also what you see here now is since we opened up the project, we have opened up another 40 stores since May. So there's another 20 stores that we're going to open up going forward now as well. And soon we will also see the opening of Primark. That is really going to be a game changer to the Polish market when we get into the first store in Poland. And also if you go up to the food court, you see now the food court is fully up and running with different brands. And it really is a clear meeting point in Warsaw. And we're going to continue investing more here. We're going to continue showing that this is the future of what we see retail. This is the future of the mixed use, really, that we get more of the food and beverage and entertainment into these retail destinations. Here we also see Galeria Libero. We open up the Square of Joy, which is the big square outside. And here we continue now working on how to increase the square, how to work on the tenant mix inside the building, but also what you will see, the footfall has increased 19% in the last 6 months. A big increase coming from this one when we open up the square in the front of the center. So we are going to continue investing, we're going to continue marketing the project, and we're going to continue working on the tenant mix. But this is what we see going forward, a very interesting project that we're going to believe a lot in, and we're going to continue making sure that it both grows the footfall and also grows the tenant experience and the client experience when you come into this center. And we have an NOI of 9.5 million euros coming out of this project annually. And that is really, really good based on that what we have built it for when we signed this contract with historical construction prices. So what you see here, every week there's a new event happening. This is really creating a new community. We are really integrating that part of Katowice. So this will be the center that they meet and they will shop and integrate in. Land bank. This is the amount of square meters we acquired in first 6 months of this year. We acquired a little bit more than 109,000 square meters. As you remember back, we have always communicated that we're going to buy around 400,000 square meters of buildable land annually. What you see in last year, we didn't catch up to that amount of land because the prices was not at the right level where we thought it made sense to buy. And what you see now, we have bought here a lot of land. We are focusing on residential because that's a part of the business that we really need to grow the land bank in. What you will see going forward now as well, we continue focusing on office because we really need to grow our office land bank as well. And that's what you see, what we're focusing on both of them going forward. Here you see the land bank that we have secured now after the closing of the books, including this one. And this is what amounts up to the slightly above 300,000 square meters that Maciej talked about. And as you see in the slide before, the average price was 1,600 and now it went up to 1,800. That comes from the plots we have acquired now after the closing of the books are all in Warsaw. And these are the plots of M Park, where we are turning part of that area to a new retail, residential destination. And we also have acquired Tesco in Kabati, which is today a retail destination that we are turning into clear mixed use. There's going to be apartments there, there's going to be food and beverage, there's going to be entertainment. This we're really creating into a new meeting area, a new destination project at a beautiful location next to the metro. So for us, this has really been two crucial projects in Warsaw where you need to go in with a different angle than the rest of the developers and having a vision how you can transform those areas to something new. Here you see in all the different areas we're between what's under negotiation, what's acquired, what's secured, in which cities they are, and what functions we are bought for. So all of these things you see here is really that we are continue working and focusing on residential, offices, and doing the mixed use of destination products.
Thank you. So we will finish this presentation with, another little bit deeper look on the financials. I think you have seen the numbers already of, the profit of 36 million. You can see a little bit more detail, the breakdown of revenues and fair value gain. And I think in particular, you can see that the largest driver of our profitability is really a brewery project, which is villa and malt house offices, that Niklas described, about the leasing progress, about the excellent environment in terms of investment market, yields going down. So this is and this will be a driver of our profitability looking forward in Q3 and Q4. If you look at the balance sheet, the trend continues. Almost each quarter we have the same message for you, which is that if you look at the parts of balance sheet which are responsible for us making money, which is properties under development, which is our residential inventory, this part is growing from quarter to quarter, and I think that you can see it here very, very well. Our net debt remains similar to previous quarters, so it continues to be below 30% of net debt ratio, so net debt to the balance sheet. We have almost no short-term debt. Right? I mean, if you look at what is on the balance sheet, is very small. So total debt is very similar to previous quarter, but it is almost entirely long-term now. Our cash position is strong, so and I will give you more details later. So we are very comfortable to enter into the deals Niklas explained, acquiring new land, because we simply have the capacity to do that with low debt and strong cash position. If you look a little bit closer, on the asset side, again, you see that there was some increase in total assets around 4%, but residential properties increased by 17%. So you see that a very big part of the total growth comes really from residential segment, and this is what we want. As we buy land, as we start new project, of course, this part of business will be, bigger and bigger part of our balance sheet. And our commercial properties under construction, they increase. Investment properties and assets for sale is really, the part that we are going to exit soon, right? So this is like O3, for example, is an example of investment property on the balance sheet, but we already sold it in September. So this is actually a very liquid part as we are selling projects quickly in this very good market environment. A look at our debt, this is long-term debt. On the corporate level, these are actually bonds, and you can see that we have nothing really maturing in 2019, only 100 million PLN maturing next year, so this is a very small amount, and we have only in 2021 and 2022, larger amounts, but they are pretty similar. And I think I already explained this more than a few times, that this is how we manage, our long-term indebtedness. So it matures, in different years. So we don't have a big concentration of refinancing. in any given year. And again, compared to, to the total of cash and overdrafts, which is well in excess of 500 million, this long-term indebtedness, is very comfortable, at a very comfortable level for us. What happened in recently is we repaid, the bonds. In Q1, we issued some bonds to institutional and retail investors. So we are active in the market, and we will be active in the market, in the following quarters. We secured loans for our projects in excess of 170 million. These are these are really office projects because we finance them with commercial, with debt. So overall, the whole financing situation and the whole indebtedness and liquidity situation is very good, and we feel very comfortable to implement our strategy of investing in land and starting new projects. And again, I already mentioned the dividend of 50 groszy that we are going to pay in October. So just a little bit of clarification. Technically speaking, the only way we can do this is really to pay this as an interim dividend. But economically, I think it's actually the deferred dividend coming from the disposal of last tranche of EPP shares. We just deferred this, and I think there were questions asked about when we are going to pay that, and we decided not, or shareholders really, by not voting on annual meeting, decided not to pay that at that time. We are paying this now. As I said, we have very comfortable cash and indebtedness situation, so we can very well afford it. What it really means that again, shareholders will take a final decision on annual dividend next year when we close our books for 2019. There will be a final decision on dividend at that time. Again, so what I'm really saying is that this is an interim dividend. If you compare this to our profit, which will be known, of course, after we finish the year, it was around 70 groszy per share last year, and we pay 70% in dividend. So this is 50 groszy that we are paying, already not for the first year. So depending on the profitability achieved for this year, and we are comfortable, that we are going to hit our targets, then depending on that, our shareholders will take a decision on the annual dividend. And of course, it's possible that interim dividend will be complemented by the final dividend, depending on the result, because it was actually financed, as I said, from the disposal of EPP shares. Thank you. That's all for now, and we invite you to ask questions.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Right now, I would like to encourage all of you to ask the questions. Yes, we have the first one.
Hello, I have a question regarding the revaluation downgrade to Libero project. It was around 9 million Polish zlotys. I know it's not a big amount, but it's somehow a little bit counterintuitive given the
Libero.
increase in traffic that you were showing in this project.
Right. Yes.
So if you could just comment on the reasons.
Sure. I think in Libero, the thing that happened now is that we we decided to invest a little bit more. So this is reflecting the CapEx decisions that we took to invest more in the project without changing really the total value. The exit value of the project. So the main reason was really the additional CapEx that we invested in this project. And I think, as we explained, before, we are also keeping some cushion in terms of valuation later for exit, right? So I think what we are saying is that we decided simply to spend more money, but we expect that the project performance will improve, and we will be able to exit this successfully sometime in 2020, right?
What Maciej is really saying that he don't want to say is the following. What we have seen is, since we completed the project, we signed a contract where construction prices were very low. And what happened after that one, when we now completed and continue completing the project, we've seen the prices going up, and we've seen contractors that are doing extra works, and it costs slightly more than we assumed at the completion of the project. So all these things that you see here is you should not see as a valuation of the project. This is like Mash is saying, increased cost in the project, both from increased prices on the construction market, where you've seen has increased dramatically over the years, but also by the extra investment that we have done to continue making the project attractive for the tenants.
Thank you. We have also some questions from our audience that are watching us online. When Echo is planning to start M-Park project?
Of course, we don't comment any project in specific. We think M-Park project is a fantastic opportunity. And we want to start this as quick as we can from the perspective. And what you should remember, it was not such a long time ago since we acquired it. And it's a very big project that we're going to start phase by phase. And we put a lot of time to it to make sure once we design it, it's going to be the right project. It's really going to be a lot of greeneries, it's going to be a lot of functions in there, and also it's going to complement the office part of that project. So I think in a not so far away future, you're really going to see a fantastic project in that part of Warsaw.
Some questions from the audience? Yes, but we need a microphone here.
Okay, so I have a question. Because we see that the government in Poland wants the minimal wage to be higher. So, and you are building like the places where people have to buy a lot of things. And my question is, aren't you afraid that people won't be, and the prices are going up. So aren't you afraid that people won't be interested in buying in those shops you build?
Well, I think that the impact on our business that we can think of is really through the construction prices, right? I mean, practically, I don't think that the demand side can suffer through that move, but of course, it's really more about do we expect the construction prices to go up? Because of course, a number of people on construction sites, may be actually subject to the minimum wage. I believe, we are actually in the part of the market, and we didn't discuss that in particular with Niklas. So please continue if I'm wrong. But I believe that we are in the part of the construction market which is less subject to that issue than many other parts, right? Because we are actually not building, we are not building cheap apartments, which means that we are not really using, in particular, we are not using construction companies that, really employ people, first on minimum wage or below, or maybe even being part of a sort of a gray market, right? We are going definitely, by the book with very high standards and very high requirements from the construction companies. So I believe that I can't say, because we didn't investigate it, what is potentially a percentage of people that may be paid minimum wage on these sites. But I believe that compared to the whole market, we will be less affected than most of construction companies in the residential sector. And in the office sector, I think it's really, people who are working on the sites are really, professionals, right? And as I said, I don't expect many of them to be subject to minimum wage at the moment.
So we have another question from the internet audience. What are the plans of Echo about the shares in Galeria Młociny?
So like I said before, Echo is a pure developer. We are not a long-term holder of assets. We are going to make sure that we are divesting those shares when it gives the best opportunity for shareholders. So it's as all other assets, we are still always evaluating it, we're looking at it. We see great opportunities of Galeria Młociny still. We have leased it in a market where rents was very low. We see now it's going up. We also see that we're having Primark coming in soon. That's really going to affect the footfall of that center, really attracting the center as a whole. Saying all of that, once we get the right opportunity to the right pricing that we think makes sense, of course we will divest But at saying that, at the same time, we are absolutely in no rush of divesting unless we see the right pricing coming up. Because we see we have a unique asset in a unique location that we think is worth a substantial amount of money and attention.
Niklas, maybe I will keep you on the stage because we have another question about the project. When do you plan to start Tesco project?
We're not going to give any exact dates about any project. And what I think is important to highlight, what is there today is nothing similar at all what's going to be in the future. We are really going to transform that area of the city. And I've been living in Poland for 11 years. And every day when I was driving back from the airport, I looked at that project and said, wow, that has such a location. That is such much of potential to doing something different here. And I think what we're doing here as a mix of residential, restaurant, green areas, convenience retail, is really going to make a huge difference. And you're also at the edge of a metro stop. And what we see today on Galeria Machini, so many people that are coming out of that metro station, and we will see the same on Kabati. This will be really a breaking through project. And I also think what we're doing now, we have a lot of dialogues with authorities and also neighbors, really to show them what we're trying to do. And also that it's nothing like it is today. We're not going to build a retail center. We're really going to build a convenience destination project that is really attracting that part of Warsaw.
Thank you very much. Do we have some questions from the audience in Warsaw? So I believe this is it. We will finish the presentation right now. But of course, I would like to encourage you to visit Browary Warszawskie. We have organized a tour, which will take place in 15 minutes. Right now, there will be a coffee break. So everyone who is interested needs to come back actually to this place, and we will perform a health and safety presentation, because it's crucial for ECO to be safe on all our construction sites. And in case you would like to visit the site, you also need to go through that. This is crucial. And I will invite you for another results presentation very soon. Thank you very much.